Thank you, Mr. Lim K. Tan. It is now time for question and answer. Please allow me to introduce Mr. Peter Rookas, the chairman of this session, before we proceed. Mr. Peter Rookas has been a Toowoomba resident for 42 years and has been the CEO of the Toowoomba Hospital Foundation for the past 20 years. Peter also does a vast amount of work for various other charities and organisations throughout the region. And in 2007, he was named the Queenslander of the Year for Toowoomba. Peter is also a White Ribbon Ambassador, which is a movement that strongly promotes the need to remove violence against women in society. He was one of 6 men, Australia-wide, to be recognised as a finalist in the 2010 Australian White Ribbon Ambassador of the Year, and he is also the Deputy Chair of Toowoomba Says No to Violence. May I now invite Mr. Rookas and the 3 speakers to come to the stage to take the Q&A session. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, may I say what a privilege it is to be asked to chair this very important session of our conference. And of course, the Peace Education Forum is an initiative of the Pure Land Learning College and building a model city of peace and harmony. It's wonderful that they are here in Toowoomba and that we can work towards that goal of building bridges and sharing ideas. This conference has allowed that to happen, and it's wonderful that so many delegates and so many people from our community have turned out to learn more and to collaborate in the hope of goodwill throughout our region. I'd also commend the Toowoomba Regional Council for their input and support. As I was introduced, I'm very proud to be a White Ribbon Ambassador, and in doing that I swear an oath that goes like this, that I swear never to commit, never to stand by, and never to remain silent about violence against women. That is my oath. Thank you. And I invite all men present to take that oath. It's quite simple. You simply go online to the White Ribbon Foundation. The difficult thing is you must adhere to that oath. That's the difficult part. But all men are capable and all men should do it. I also, I care about my city. I love Toowoomba. For the many visitors that come to our city, I have a very simple welcome. I say, welcome to the capital of the world. I really believe that Toowoomba is the greatest city in the greatest state in the greatest country in the world. And for those that sometimes have a little laugh and think that's not true, I say, just remember, we sit on the mountain and look down on you. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning's plenary, Plenary 6, inclusiveness and integration, and we've seen this morning and heard this morning some different perspectives, religious and secular. We've had 3 excellent speakers. First up, Reverend John from the Anglican Parish of St Luke, and he certainly challenged our thinking. He talked about transformation, interaction, compassion, faith, and he used different perspectives and analogies. A pilgrimage, shoes, disability, a stone wall. How pertinent. He also he provided an insight into what integration and inclusion is all about. Dr. Batorowicz from the University of Southern Queensland took on a personal experience. Through education, he posed many questions relating to society, and he gave practical examples. And of course the Singapore overview and Mr. Lim, how wonderful. I didn't realise that Singapore was so small, but so big. And it was an interesting insight to Singapore that religion is strong and diverse, that social harmony can be fragile in any country and must be worked at. Thankfully, there is equality for all in Singapore's thinking. Legal acts in place to ensure tolerance and respect, and one very key factor, we should all learn from it here in Australia: politics and religion don't mix. I was enthused by the National Steering Committee, a racial and religious harmony group, and I'm also pleased that we in Toowoomba are working together with a similar group where religious leaders in our city come together and can sit together at the one table and discuss their parishioners, their faith in that regard, for the betterment of Toowoomba in that regard. And I think that the one thing that has come out this morning of the plenary session, inclusion and integration, is that harmony will come through the strength of work. Now, our special, where's our gentleman, our speakers? Oh, Rob and Krzysztof, please join us on stage. And also Mr. Lim joining us here as well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, are there any questions from the floor for? 20. You're right.
Rachel Akers here for those who don't actually know me, which would be a bit of a surprise. General Ratbag. I just want to say to Mr. Tham, Hanif once spoke about Singapore, but he had much a shorter period of time, and he certainly did miss some of the marvellous things you were talking about. And I'd love to see why Australia isn't looking at some of the models that you've spoken about and Hanif had spoken about before, because I think we can really learn an awful lot from your experiences. Mr. Krzysztof, hi, I haven't seen you in ages. You're looking fantastic, and as always, it's brilliant to hear you talk. The religious aspect, I was a little disappointed. My apologies, Reverend. I was interested in seeing what some of the other religions had to say about some of the other topics, and it was interesting what you had to say, but I was just a little bit disappointed. There was a comment that came up in one of the workshops yesterday about when one religion goes and talks about its ethics and its experiences, then there's a general perception that there's a suggestion that the other religions lack those morals and ethics. And I was kind of reminded of that while listening to the marvellous talk you were giving, but it just seemed to lack a little bit. Is there some way to actually include what... I mean, I was even surprised as to hear that the Islam 7 pillars wasn't mentioned when they're talking about things like the compassion and the charity and the pilgrimage. I was just wondering, do you have any other things you'd like to add to this about the other religious aspects, not just... well, not even just the Abrahamic ones. Thank you.
How long have I got? I hear what you're saying, but I find that rather astonishing, to be quite honest, because I did deliberately. I think in the journey of peace and harmony, I was interested. What was said that. Some key questions. What do we understand? The type of pluralism, I think that Lynn was talking about. What kind of pluralism are we looking at? What kind of secularity is appropriate that both honours difference but doesn't have a kind of form of pluralism or secularity that doesn't allow for tensions to be expressed and so we don't end up in assimilation. So I guess what I feel with, I don't really want to defend myself, but in terms of my approach is that what I was trying to do is to use some concepts that were able to be appropriated by people from different traditions and different backgrounds, and to be able, which could connect with those things. So when I'm talking about pilgrimage, I think I did explicitly say that pilgrimage from all kinds of different religious traditions. Now, if I got a long, long time, I could speak about the little that I know about some other traditions, but a rich pluralism is one that I think allows a committed pluralism, so that we do need to stand somewhere rather than trying to pretend that we stand everywhere. So, as a Christian speaker, I think it's inevitable that, and right, that I express something of myself, just as Lim, as a Singaporean, needs to express something of himself as a Singaporean, and to allow others. In fact, I think what I tried to do is to try and express a number of different viewpoints. I'm not disabled in the way that some other people are disabled. I am a person with disabilities, but they're not quite so obvious. So I can't speak from their position. I'm not a female, so I can't speak from some of the issues to do with gender violence. I'm not a Muslim, so I can't speak for it. But I think there's a way in which, what I hope is that a rich religious approach thing acknowledges and tries to make connections so that there are resonances across those things. But we also have to be able to share something of who we are, because I think that's what makes it authentic when we come from our tradition. So it's better really for someone who's a Muslim to spend a great deal of time speaking about the importance of Hajj and the other key pillars of Islam and so on, than for a Christian to attempt to do that in a way which may well be that I think I heard what I thought you said, but that wasn't actually what you did say. I hope that's helpful. I hope that what you think you thought you heard me say, it may be that I was trying to say that you might reflect that I was actually saying something other than you think I thought, or if you make sense.
Well answered. Do we have another question? Lady down the back.
My name is Enya. I have a question for Lim. I admire the efforts in Singapore. I think that sounds pretty good. But I'm wondering if members of the government are affiliated with the various religious groups in themselves, and how they manage to work together as a government for all the people.
Thank you, Reverend. Yes, the answer to your first question is a yes. Many of the government officials would have their own religious affiliation as well. And that's to be expected. And there are also members of the government who profess no faith. That's fine as well. And as to how do they then come and work together, I think they apply the principle of neutrality in the course of their work. And that is to treat all religions as being equal. And also, as I have said in my presentation, there is a separation of religion from politics. And the emphasis will be upon what can give or what can serve the common good of society, rather than what would be in the interest of any particular race or religion. And so by always maintaining their neutrality and by always being conscious that it is a common good that we seek, and then by working at the commonalities that all faith groups have, they then deliver the results. Thank you.
Gentleman down the front here has a question for our group.
My name is Amir Ali. Okay. My question is to my friend Tham, but others also can answer. One of the advantages that Singapore has is that it's a city-state, a tiny island, and from the beginning, from the inception, they took the first correct step, and then it's easier to take the next steps. Now, my question is, how much of that experience can be transferred to a country like Australia? Now, Singapore, although you say it keeps religion separate from politics, not exactly, because before they pass a legislation, they feel the pulse of the communities. That is taken into consideration, and then it's easier for you to then sell the legislation to the society. One example in Australia is that before the Anti-Terrorism Act on September 11 was first passed in Parliament, then was trying to sell it to the community. That's where the problem comes in. So I think I just want to know how much of that experience can be passed through the country like Australia, which is vast and again pluralistic. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Emil. You have actually observed the situation very well. I think you have you have a very good understanding of Singapore's history. And it is true that while religion and politics are kept separate, religion is not being denied its contribution to the thinking process. And as I also said in my paper, very often religious leaders are consulted before public policy is arrived at. But as to the question how our experience can be transferred to a big country like Australia, this morning I was reminded that Australia is about 13,000 times bigger than Singapore. 13,000 times, I didn't know that. So how can that, how can all that has worked for us be transferred to Australia? It's not something I can answer really. It's something for the Australians to answer.
You answer it. What we learn in Singapore? Can we use that?
Yes, I really enjoyed the presentation about Singapore. Obviously, you've got the best international airport in the world, and I would love to travel more frequently using your airport facilities. I reflected about the presentation, and I learned obviously about cultural diversity in Singapore, both in ethnic terms and religious terms. I've got a little bit doubts or question about the concept of secularization at the beginning. It would be very nice to see your personal opinion, if possible. And the aspect, very briefly, you mentioned the Maintenance of Religion Harmony Act as a piece of legislation in Singapore. You know, it happened to me, I used to be a lawyer, and I believe in my 30s that I can change the world without law. Unfortunately, going older, I see the wisdom in words of Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, you can't legislate goodness. So we're talking about harmony, whether we can achieve harmony without legislation. If you can, just very brief comment. Thank you.
I didn't expect a question from the panel, but anyway.
You took the opportunity.
Yes, in fact, I should say a little bit more about this particular act, the Maintenance of Religious Harmony, because it is true that you cannot legislate goodness or even respect. But what this act does is to prohibit certain actions that would bring about disharmony. So, for example, if a religious person were to use the pulpit to criticize another faith, then this act will be brought to bear upon his action, and this particular person will have to be taken to task, and the act provides for that. So it is a kind of a preventative measure being taken to prevent disrespect of religion. But there are positive aspects as well in the act. The act also provides ways in which conflicts could be resolved without, say, going to court, for example. Mediation is recommended. And also the setting up of a Presidential Council for Religious Harmony has been set up under this act. for the precise purpose of resolving such conflict as they are first reported. Thank you.
Very good. I think, gentleman here.
I think to myself about Yugoslavia. They had a, very government. Nobody could not get along with each other for a long period of time until Tito died. And then when Tito died, the lid came off, and all of this festering stuff underneath came. Now, a number of years ago, we had a lady named Pauline Hanson, and a lot of people said to me, she is saying what I was thinking but afraid to say. Now, Australia's lucky enough, we have shock jocks like Alan Jones and people who can let off the bigotry in our country. Now, how do you in Singapore allow to drain the bigotry that often kind of subserve it, or do you crush everything, and are you in danger of ending up like Yugoslavia?
I did say in my paper that much work is needed to bring this level of harmony from the surface to something deeper. I did say that. Because harmony can also be just skin deep. But I do not think it is the case. I do think that there is genuine recognition by all members of the community that it is in our common interest to live harmoniously with everyone. And this probably comes to many years of being educated to think this way. And being a very small nation, an island state, without any resources of any sort, natural resources, I mean, we're fully dependent on trade and commerce. Even our water had to be imported into the island. And of course, our meat comes from Australia, our fruits as well. So the situation is not only fragile, it is fragile in every sense of the word, that our very survival depends on everyone getting along. And perhaps this has underlined the desire to then coexist peacefully with everyone, with everybody. But there is recognition that there's a lot more to be done to move this superficial harmony a step deeper. And this is where the religious community must do its part. The Singapore government has done all it can, the top-down approach I mentioned. But this must be done in collaboration with the religious community. They themselves must come and must also recognize the need to do something to improve relations. And I think this comes about also because as the government had taken the initiative to bring the religious leaders together, it has helped to foster goodwill. Because once you are no longer a stranger, once you are a friend, then immediately that would help you in the decisions you make, in the teaching that you give to your own flock. And I myself have seen that. I now count among my friends members of the other religious groups. Yeah, thank you.
Well, we've got time for one more question, lady down here. Yes, there.
Oh, right. My name is Betty. My question relates to the issue of disabilities. The Reverend himself said that he has some disabilities which are not obvious. What I would like to see included in any city of peace and harmony is people who have not so obvious disabilities. I have some obvious disabilities. People have seen me limping around the room here because of my arthritis, etc. But my not obvious disability is my epilepsy, and I spoke on that recently. There are very many people who are ignored because their disabilities are not obvious. And I would like to see not only the obvious disabilities included within this city of peace and harmony, if we ever get it going, I would like to see those disabilities included, and not just the major ones that people see all the time, like the people in wheelchairs, etc. But the other major issue is on education, and that is to educate the people who have those disabilities, which are practically invisible to others, to accept themselves and not stigmatise and separate themselves from others, because many of them do. They think they're not accepted, so they hold back. We need to let them know that, yes, we're not going to stigmatise them, we will accept them, and we want them, first of all, to accept themselves, because if they don't, it's going to be very difficult for others to. So I'd like to see inclusiveness in all aspects of disability. Do you see that happening if this city of peace and harmony comes about? Thank you.
John, you have Krzysztof there?
Yes, thank you very much. I do agree very much with your statement, and we have to be aware of it. The long story which I presented about the lady from Canada also helped me to reflect the changes which took place here. I do remember when I came to this country, there was not really a place for people with disabilities. Now, after the legislation, after change of the attitude, after a long process of education, the situation is very different. And I do agree that quite often people, some people with disabilities, if they've got something which is visible, and this quite often immediate reaction, but a lot of education is still needed, and the policy development should also take place. So yes, I support the statement, and perhaps we can make also a recommendation to organizers of the forum that in the future the issue of disability should be tackled as well. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Krzysztof. Rob, you have any thoughts on that in that regard?
Yeah, I would agree with what's said, and it's great to hear that, and I think you're right. I think it should be a recommendation that goes forward and taken seriously in the process. When I was talking about L'Arche and Jean Vanier, I deliberately chose that example as well because it is there's an interfaith on it, although it comes out of a Catholic background. Wherever L'Arche has happened, where those communities of people with intellectual disabilities take about across the world, in India or wherever, it has taken the shape and drawn on the spirituality of the place. Not religion with a capital R, but spirituality with a small s, and shaped and developed in that culture, so that those things have worked hand in hand. And I think the more we think about it, is that the more, I suppose, I deliberately didn't use the word sin because that's got a lot of other connotations, but really for me, I think what the Christian faith understands is it's about being broken. In our lives, we carry with us a tremendous amount of brokenness that sometimes it's because we've been beaten up by life, or people have beaten us up. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with us. And so people are carrying those things, and there is a tremendous amount of pain and suffering in each and every one of us. So when we walk together, we need to walk gently and with an ever-growing awareness that life is so much more, suffering is so much more, and also the joys that are there are so much more. So I guess it's cultivating that compassionate mind that the Buddhists speak of, that is what's there, and disability. People with disabilities, evident or otherwise, can guide us in that way, I think.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have time for in question and answers now. We're going to break for coffee and interactions, and then of course at 11 a.m. we're going to hear from the Queensland Police Commissioner, Mr. Ian Stewart. Ian's arrived, and I might add that Ian is a Toowoomba boy. He was born here in Toowoomba, actually at the Mother's Hospital, because we've done a history book up at the hospital, and Ian, you're mentioned in it, so I know a little bit about you in that regard, and your dad's pretty proud of you. I know we saw an article in the recent Chronicle. So we'll be hearing from the Commissioner. And ladies and gentlemen, please join us for morning tea. Please thank our panel up here and our presenters this morning, Reverend Dr. John Inkpin from the Anglican Parish of St Luke, Dr. Krzysztof Batorowicz from the University of Southern Queensland, and of course our friend from Singapore, the General Secretary of the National Council of Churches in Singapore, Mr. Lim K. Tham. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and we'll break for morning tea. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, the Chairman and the speakers. Just quickly before we proceed to morning tea, I'd just like to make a special announcement. Mr. Peter Rookas is a very good friend of the Pure Land Learning College, and certainly he's a man with a generous heart for the community. Today is a very special day for him, but he has kindly given his time to be here with us. Today is his wife Kathy's birthday. So I would like to thank Mr. Peter Rookas and like to give, there it is, the yummy chocolates to Kathy. Happy birthday to Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, folks. I know that my wife will enjoy this. I hope it's not fragile because I've just dropped it. But I'd like to thank the Pure Land Learning College, especially for their support of our Toowoomba community, and in particular the hospital. Some 12 years ago, or a bit over 12 years ago, I met Master Ching Kung and members of the Pure Land Learning College, and they expressed a desire to come and to be part of our community, to be part of Toowoomba. And I think that was a groundbreaking day for Toowoomba, because they have really made a great impact on our city. They have brought love and peace and harmony, and that is one of the most important things within a community, is to have that peace and love and harmony. And each and every year, the Pure Land Learning College donate $120,000 for research with our local hospital. And that has happened every year for the past 12 years. A magnificent contribution to our medical research here in Toowoomba, and to the support of the community. I'm sure my wife will be very pleased, and I know that Hanif and Mai Ling were behind this. So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peter Rookas. Ladies and gentlemen, please return by 5 to 11. Our next session will start at 11 o'clock. Thank you.